Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Happy New Year, and hope you had a lovely Christmas. I am still in Cameroon and visiting a couple of friends and institutions, and I've had the privilege of meeting the founder of one of our new growing institutions in Cameroon that's doing a lot of good work and supporting students here in Yaounde. And I just thought it would be nice to interview the founder and just find out a bit more about the school and what it is doing for the students, especially in terms of knowledge they share. So let me put my camera here as I'm about to introduce to you the founder of the school, Professor Willy Dzengwa. Dzengwa. Let me pronounce it like a Banso person, although it's not a Banso name. So, Prof, greetings.
Really, it's my pleasure, and to your many viewers.
Yes.
Right.
All right. So the name of the school is the Heritage Higher Institute of Peace and Development Studies.
That's right.
Heritage Vocational Training Institute.
Yeah.
In partnership with the African Network Against Illiteracy, Conflicts, and Human Rights Abuses.
That's right.
So it's a very interesting name for a school. So I'm just curious to know if you can just explain to us the name that you gave to the school and why.
Well, heritage means heritage. We want to be able to show future generations that we pass through here. We want to leave it as an heritage, we started from far. If you permit, we started with the association, the African Network Against Illiteracy, Conflicts, and Human Rights Abuses, which took us far. By then, we were training people, vocational training. We were doing education. We understood that there was a relationship between education, conflicts, and human rights abuses. If people were well educated, we will not have conflicts. Mm-hmm. And if we roll back conflicts, then we are checking human rights abuses.
Yeah.
So it was education for peace against human rights abuses. So that's how we started. And we were doing these in the field, formal and informal training or education. And then somewhere 10 years after, or let's say 8 years after, when this organization would have taken us around the world, when we actually won an international award on peace and citizenship education in 2008. After that, we thought that it would be good we actually formalize and create the higher institute part of it, since we are in the knowledge industry, having given our trade, our expertise around the world. We thought that it would be good to come back home and replicate what we've learned elsewhere as our contribution to the education of the underprivileged, especially.
Okay. So these things would have led or would have contributed to you starting the school. But personally, thinking about your journey, what was that one thing that really prompted you to say, okay, I want to start this school?
Well, what really prompted me was the quest to contribute in education. Let me say this. I was 10 years old when my village parents were killed in front of me. I call that an infamous 1st of January, New Year's Day. That was in 1981. Sometimes I thought that I should revenge. And sometimes when I grew older, especially when we came to the university in the 90s, we faced almost the same type of hate speeches and crimes which planted some hatred maybe in us. But we realized that people conflicted, like I said before, because they had inadequate education, inadequate knowledge of the other. Mm-hmm. And that is why I said we started with bringing people together to coach them against hate speeches, against hate language, against hate actions, and trying to see how the old tendency of thinking that we should revenge should be rolled back. So we thought that talking with people, understanding each other, would actually roll back our differences and is going to plant the seed of peace. Now, we did it formally, informally, as an organization, and we thought that with the burning crisis in the country, in Cameroon, I would like to say that I was one of the first Cameroonians to do a research on the current Anglophone crisis, the Anglophone problem in Cameroon. That was about 22 years ago.
Wow.
And I thought that I should be able to make a contribution to roll back these conflicts. And sometimes later, I thought that it would be concrete. I started from 2014 to try to see how we could procure land. Let me say, I want to give an international recognition to a group. I would say the students of St. Andrews University in Scotland. Some of whom, after our visit there, decided to contribute some resources where we got some books and we presented this problem to that university, and we got let's talk, a group of students who said, well, we actually want to contribute in bringing peace to Cameroon. Now, these books could not just be books. So they actually inspired me as well. And we moved on to say, we had the award, we had these presentations, we had these books, and we said, now what can we do to add something? So we talked about peace and development, because we are convinced that when we don't have peace, we can never talk about development. So that one thing that pricked me was the background of conflicts and how I should be able to build an institution that should contribute at rolling back violent extremism and inject a spirit of development. One other thing is that I met somebody who was so wonderful. And this person is a father who actually mentored all of my thoughts, all of my researches, from the master's to the PhD.
I think I can guess who you are talking about.
Yes, I'm talking about Professor Verkijeka Fanso, who actually led me all through this, and he stood by me through the organization. He's current board chair of the Heritage Higher Institute. So it was not one thing. It's my background of conflicts, having lived violent extremism, violent conflicts, having thought that I should make a contribution, having won an international award in that direction, having, let me say that I'm the Vice President of the Civic Commission for Africa. And we've traveled a lot to Japan and all of that. So we thought that it would be good to create something that we call heritage.
Yeah.
So that people should be able to identify with. So we wanted to make a relationship between peace and development.
Right. How many years has this institution been running for?
We are 2 years old.
Okay.
But we often make the joke that we are 2 years old, but we are like a child that was born with teeth.
Yes.
Yes, because we are actually doing things that institutions which have existed for many more years and not doing.
So how many students have you had so far since you started?
We started faintly with a group of about 20 students, because we started faintly due to the reluctance of the powers that be to grant us authorization and time. And since we are of the higher institution, we could not begin an illegal institution. So we started faintly with about 25 students. Then we moved on the second year. Today we have about 90 students.
And this is just your third year?
We are beginning the third year. We are having 90 students. And it is interesting to note the quality of the students we have, especially in some of the departments. Now we've decided to admit degree holders to come in and read peace studies and humanitarian action. So everything peace and conflict studies, humanitarian action. Then we have other departments. It shouldn't be only about, we talked about development. We have mechanical engineering, we have ICT, that's computer engineering, we have education and professional development, we have banking, finance, management, and all what it takes, transport and logistics. In short, we have all of these because we understand that when we were trying to create the institution, we did not want to leave anybody out. And the current crisis actually came and spurred us at the current Anglophone crisis, because we realized that many of the children who've left this area could not do anything by themselves. So we decided that before then, but let me say that it was created before the crisis. So we started off talking about vocational training. And that is why we sought for two authorizations. One, under the Ministry of Vocational Employment and Vocational Training, where we want to train, to bring street children, the have-nots, and actually train them to have some knowledge to be able to practically carry on work in the field. So our educational system has been too much of theory. So we wanted people who have basic knowledge to read and write, to train them to be able to do things by themselves. But for those who have had a certain level, like college, high school, they could be able to continue in the higher institute. So that is what we have been able to put in place.
All right. Now, I know that with the Anglophone crisis, which you mentioned earlier, it would mean that you would have a certain percentage of IDPs, that we call internally displaced people, from the crisis, who would have come to Yaounde from the northwest or southwest regions of Cameroon, who will be enrolled for 1 or 2. So we had a minor issue there with the video. So it was just about the percentage of IDPs that you have here and what you're doing to support them, considering they might be struggling to pay their school fees. Right. So how do you do that?
Well, we have 1/3 of our student population are all internally displaced persons, and I consider myself to be one of them because I originate from the northwest region and I cannot go home. Let me say that when we started the school, we had not considered this because we did not know the level of the crisis. But when things degenerated, we thought that it would be incumbent on us to get the school as a humanitarian institution. So we decided to start taking in IDPs who had a certain level of education. And let me say, like we said, we have two authorizations. Those who have.
So as you were saying, yeah.
Yeah, I was saying that the school has about 1/3 of the population IDPs, and I consider myself an IDP, and I must be able to make a contribution. Let me say that there are IDPs and there are IDPs. There are IDPs who are civil servants or whose parents are civil servants, or who are businessmen and they have some basic means. Those ones we give them partial scholarships, but we have IDPs who don't even have where to stay. We give some of their children 100% scholarship, especially if they show need. They must respect some basic conditions. Others have 50% of the scholarship. So the percentage is just a few have 100% scholarship. Some more have 50%, and most have at least 1/4 of the fees is reduced. But let us not forget that apart from that, we also try to create them opportunities, and we have our policy of one student, one free laptop, which goes on to boost their learning process, so that by the very first day the students come to school, when these laptops are distributed to them, we actually think that they can be able to do certain things by themselves. Do not forget, we are doing both vocational and professional education, and we want to get our educational system to be far away from the traditional theory system, where much of theory is being taught. So we are moving to professional, vocational education, where we want 60% of what we do with the students to be practical. So that's why we provide them with these laptops. I don't know whether I said that we have the auto mechanics department, where we send students with basic knowledge to be able to learn and become, to be able to do things on themselves. So we have the engineering department, which runs through the vocational and the professional education, that is higher education. We train motor mechanics. We have the ICT, which is doing very well because we have very excellent students there who have come in and they're already trying to do something. We have transport and logistics, business finance management. We have education and professional development. Um, all of this, we are trying to get the students actually do something concrete. And let's not forget, we have sent out 2 groups of students in the public official exams in the country, and we've had 100%. Just our last matriculation ceremony and graduation ceremony, we had authorities from both ministries who came to give us words of encouragement for what we are actually doing. And let me note that we are admitting graduates to come and do a 1-year and eventual 2-year program on peace studies and humanitarian action. With the current crisis in the country, we have been able to place graduate 2 batches, and these students, some of them are already doing very well. We think that the original idea, and that's why I said we seem to have been a young school born with
achieving a lot as well within the small time. Now, my next question, I think I'll have to skip that because I was wondering if you have any dropouts and how you deal with that. But if you're giving this level of support and scholarship to students, do you still have any dropouts at all?
We have some dropouts, yeah, because sometimes they don't have psychological support, and that's why we have recruited the expertise of experts in trauma healing.
Wow.
And that is one of the courses that we actually do here in the Department of Peace Studies and Humanitarian Action. Some of them are not psychologically very, very balanced, given the fact that they've had their loved ones killed in front of them, they've had their houses burnt, and sometimes when they come, despite the fact that some of their parents are a bit, let me say, civil servants, are a bit viable to take care of them, when they come to town, they might not have where to stay, despite the fact that they have a small salary. They might come and register, and at one point, they want to withdraw. Because when we say pay 50% of the fee, they actually register. But somewhere along the line, because of some other realities, they are not able to sustain that. And of course, we don't have any government support. We don't have any support from whosoever. We cannot make the school to be 100% free because we have to pay the teachers as well. So when we know that they come from a parental background, that they can afford at least half of the fee, and they are not bringing forth that, it becomes very difficult for us to assist. But we've had to get somebody just called me the other day and asked the same question. And I talked about a few students, 2 students who are actually in their final year, that's the second year, and who are not able to actually sustain the fee issue. And the lady said, okay, I'm going to make a contribution, another 100,000 francs each for the students, so as to encourage them stay. Maybe they will be able to pay the remaining fee. So there is one person who has decided to assist 2 students. That is fine, and that is the first. We think that that's a good initiative. Yes.
So I'm sure you've answered this, but I just want you to elaborate a bit more. How do you then ensure employability of your students as soon as they leave here?
The very first thing we do is that from the onset, we are the ones who get the students do internship. So we look for internship opportunities for them. And we have scholarship opportunities. So our best students, we do lobbying for them to either have scholarships or to get employment. But one of the most important things we want our students to have to imbibe in their minds is that they should stay clear from the civil service mentality.
Which is
waiting on government to recruit, or always waiting for the employer to. So we are making our students to be able to have practical knowledge so that they can eventually create jobs rather than depending on being employed. They should be recruiting rather than waiting for recruitment. And I can be sure to say that we have a few who are already placed. I cannot say that after 2 3 years we have already placed top bankers, but I will say that we have one of our students who is already lecturing in a higher institution as well. We have another who is working in a bank. We have another who is working with, I mean, about six who are working with international NGOs, civil society organizations. We have school principals who have graduated from our Department of Education and Professional Development because they distinguished themselves. We have one who is working with the American Peace Corps, recruited directly from here. So we think that we don't guarantee 100% recruitment, but like I said, within 2 3 years or the third year running, we have been able to graduate and place some of our students. We have an advantage that we work with some foreign institutions, and these foreign institutions give us some bit of scholarship opportunities for some of our students. We have what we call the ANICRA Award, ANICRA Small Grant. There we give students who are willing to do voluntary services because we want to imbibe a spirit of volunteerism. So when students come and we give them that idea, the notion, and they willingly volunteer, they learn by doing. And when they learn by doing, sometimes where they do the volunteering, they are retained there. So we have some who have been retained in left, right, and center. So I think we are doing our best to. We are looking forward to a situation where we are going to get the best students and build a pool where we can provide the basic means for them to be able to create real employment. We are already planning that with our ICT department, so that by the time we graduate, the first 10 students, we might not, those who do not have jobs, we are going to build them together to stay together, and we provide them the basic means to be able to come out with some strong structures that can be able to, instead of being recruited, they should recruit others. So the vision is far reaching, and we are just trying to rule on.
Right. I'm so impressed now. I know that this institution is like a 3-in-1, and I know about that third part, which is the NGO, ANICRA. And I know as well that you don't really enjoy the idea of NGO in the sense that we look at NGOs in Cameroon. You don't really accept handouts and things like that. A lot of the funding in your NGO actually comes from your personal pocket and sacrifices. However, because of the IDP situation, I know that there are people who will not mind to support even 1 or 2 students here in any little way. So the question is, what can someone do if they wanted to support a student, an IDP specifically, in your institution?
Yes, your question is very intriguing. Let me say that we hardly believed in the notion of dependence. We run the civil society part of it, but we are not wholly dependent. We want to begin doing something, what the Americans, what people call the payback time. We live within a community that supported us to attain the level of education that we have. And it is important for us to pay back that community in one way or the other. That is the civil society part of it. And that is why we decided with our friends, the family, to put aside 20% of our annual income to assist others. I had the opportunity to do consultancy with international organizations. I had the opportunity, which I don't do, of course. I have the opportunity to be a university professor. We thought that it would be important for us to put aside some percentage of our annual income to assist the others. That is it. But I did say that we visited, I think that is the first organization that actually donated money, and we bought books. I'm talking about the students of the University of St Andrews in Scotland. I think that's all. But we've had friends who've come to visit, who are seeing what we are doing. We've had one Professor Diane Napier, who saw what we were doing and contributed some books and sent us some books when she was visiting, because we organize international conferences. That's one of the things that I've not said. to go to your question, though we have not been able to write for projects to tell people give us assistance, because the notion of civil society organizations or NGOs has always been to be beggarly.
Yeah.
But we don't have much, but we are open to those who can genuinely contribute. And how can they support us? Well, we give the students laptops,
I
free
like that
laptops.
every single student in this school has received a free laptop from you.
Yes, from our humble, meager resources. Um, People can support us by maybe donating laptops. People can support us by picking up one or two of those students and taking care of their fees. And when they do, we link those students with their sponsors, because that's very important for us. Uh, we want to run the institution. I just said, thank God we have a very strong board chair, from whom we've learned a lot, Professor Vertikijika Fanso, who wants everything of his to be very clear, transparent, with a lot of humility, and we want to put off on that desire, public accountability. So when you are helping any student here, you can decide to say, with the ladies, this person who is helping the students is helping two ladies. She wants to help assist the ladies.
Yeah.
Some other person might be touched and want to assist the physically challenged. Some other person might want the boys. Some other one might want. So it's a matter of saying, I want to assist 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 students, and maybe assist in the fees. And then we link the students. We make the students actually know that this is the person who is taking care of the fees. We create a direct contact. So that is how they can be able to assist. Another way to assist is to do student exchanges. There might be university institutions, there might be vocational training institutions who are willing to collaborate with us. So for those who buy our ideas, who want to work with us, we can collaborate.
Yeah.
So teachers can as well come to Cameroon, foreign, from other universities, from other parts of Cameroon. They might decide to do voluntary service. Maybe come and stay with us for 1 month and do and share, pass on their information. So these are the different ways that the different institutions or different persons, interested persons, can be able to assist us. Or, well, financial support, especially if the financial support is geared towards a given goal, not open financial support.
Yeah.
We will not very much want an open financial support, because there will be no accountability. So any support should be, we want you to do this, and we make sure that we create a link for you to see that we actually have done what you want to do it. And one other support is that the school is not having yet a huge permanent site. We are working towards that, so people might be able to assist us get something more permanent than what we have. I think that's that. We don't only provide the laptops. We provide free internet services to all the students for the entire year. Actually, we should be one of the few schools in the entire Cameroon.
Do you not even give them free t-shirts? I saw the
Well,
poster outside.
We do.
The free list of free things that they just get by being students here.
By being students, we give them the free so many free services.
Yeah.
And when we give them the free services, free, then we now, like I said, it is not a money-making institution. It stems from a background. We want to make a contribution without overdoing. If you permit, there is one thing that I have not said, to talk about the teeth with which we're born. We have organized 2 international workshops, training workshops. And the first, we got people who came in as far from Germany for us to work together. We've had Reconnecting Humans, the representative from the Jenner Center, the Jenner Center for Genocide Studies were here. We work together. We have professors from the University of Toronto in Canada, with whom we organize international training workshop on peace building, reconciliation, and all of that. So we are actually planting our feet very deep into the academia, the intellectual. So from all of those perspectives, people might be interested and want to support us in one way or the other. Another support can just be this your recording can be forwarded to other persons to see what we are doing. Maybe I take this opportunity to smile and plead with those who are insisting that there should be no school in Cameroon. That this is a way we are helping those students who have run away from the two North regions, Anglophone regions, to at least have an education. Because many of those who are in those regions have not had the opportunity to go to school. But we are, by extension, very soon going to extend to these areas to make sure that people understand that there is nothing which is more than education. If you do not educate yourself today, then we are going to live on to the same marginalization.
It's been a huge honor. In fact, before I think this is my final question. And this question for me is like, because I consider this a success story, knowing that you come from very humble beginnings. And just looking at all this, what are your final thoughts? What would you like to just say in conclusion now, just considering where you came from and where you are now with all that you're achieving now with the school?
I don't know whether I have achieved much, whether it's a success story, but I think I have taught in Cameroon and out of Cameroon. I'm a double United States of America State Department alumnus, senior Fulbright scholar. I've done a lot. I've lectured in over 18 foreign universities. What message I would put forward is that education is the key. I've come from a humble background. I came from a background with conflicts where I saw my village parents killed in front of me. Today, the same things are happening. I'm a prince from a palace. That palace was burnt down during the current crisis. I have many of my relatives, more than 48 of them killed. And I still think that there is a relationship between peace and development. We should be able to plant the seeds of peace. And the seeds of peace can only be planted through education and re-education. That is why we insist on what we are doing. Our slogan is, we mean what we say and we say what we mean. Everything we say, we try to implement it because we think that the essence is education. So anybody who wants the education of the child, everybody who wants to roll back unemployment, because some of the crisis situation is caused by unemployment, is caused by youth radicalization, it is caused by unhealthy environment. We can be able to provide education that will be able to create employment, that should be able to roll back violent extremism, and then Cameroonians can be able to look at themselves and say, well, we can live on as human beings. Yeah. So anyone who thinks that he can be able to buy our philosophy and come follow or support what we are doing, you'll be welcome to contact us and work directly with us. And of course, our main contacts will be, well, through you, Madam Bonio. So thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a pleasure, because this wasn't even like a planned interview, It just happened the way it did, and we're just so very great. I'm so very grateful. And in fact, just to know that this is actually dad's student, and they now have this father-son relationship. And although I was coming to visit Prof, it was more as an informal thing, and we just thought we should do this interview and just share, So please don't forget to click the like button, comment, share, subscribe, and keep being happy, keep smiling, keep being thankful, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.